tough week last week against Perth. How have the boys regrouped since then?
Yeah, look, it wasn't a performance that we actually turned up to play in, so the players are disappointed. So look, we've had a good chat this week. We've trained hard, and then it's all up to the players tomorrow night.
What do you think went wrong? It was like you've had a lot of disappointing performances, really, but being in games, but obviously that was a long way off.
Yeah, look, it's a difficult one to put the finger on. The first 15 minutes of the game, we looked quite good, and then we sort of just lost all of our energy. So look, it's could be a number of factors of why that happened. There's something we have our ideas on, and the game's done now, and we have to move on to the next one.
So do you make wholesale changes to try and shake it up?
Yeah, look, we always try and pick the best team for the opposition, and that's no different tomorrow. So there will be some changes. Wellington are quite a strong side in those transition moments, and last week, we were very poor in those transition moments. So look, we need to address that. There will be some changes for the game tomorrow.
Defensively, obviously, Jordan Elsey came in at the back for Veart last week. Is that a partnership you look to keep, or how do you sort of shuffle that around this week?
Yeah, look, it was, Veart's performances hadn't been up to the level that we had hoped to be at. So, he had to miss last week's game on that. But when we look at our best 11, Veart is definitely in our best 11. So, look, it's something that we have to change. We have to find a solution to stop the goals going in, because we're just conceding far too many goals. The playing group aren't happy, as well as the coaching staff, and we've, trying to help the players to stop those goals from going in, and it's up to the players on the day to be a little bit more strong defensively.
Has that been your Achilles heel for the last 2 or 3 seasons?
Yeah, look, the type of football that we play, we are always open a little bit to concede goals, but recently it's just been far too easy, and we still haven't created as many opportunities that we would normally create as well. So that's the disappointing thing.
You touched on sort of the source behind last week. I know before last week, after the announcement of your future, you said you hoped it wouldn't be a distraction. Do you think it did prove a distraction from the players in the end?
Yeah, look, possibly. At the end of the day, we need players focused on doing their jobs, getting the result for the club, and that's all we can do. We've got 3 games left. We know if we win 3 games, we'll play finals football. So look, we know it's up to us, and it's about us going out and doing our jobs.
On a brighter note, it's obviously a landmark occasion for him. You've always spoke glowingly about him, just a testament to what a player he is. Yeah,
most definitely. He's been a long servant for the club, and he trains exactly how he plays every day, wears his heart on his sleeve, and he's a great example to the younger players what you need to do to be able to have success. And unfortunately, when you've got your most senior player working harder than a lot of the other players in the group, it sometimes is a little bit disappointing.
Is this a week where he starts, or does he come off the bench?
Yeah, look, it's we'll make that decision tomorrow. Issa, as I said, has been a great servant for the club. Hopefully there's a lot more games left in him. I believe he can still keep adding to this team. So it's entirely up to him.
Last week, obviously, he came up for the last couple of minutes. Was that a case where you went, I need to make sure he gets on to make sure that this was going to be the weekend that he breaks the record on?
Yeah, look, it's always been nice for him to do it in front of his family and friends. And just the way it worked out.
Where does he, as a club great yourself, where does he rank among the
Yeah, I think I've said on numerous occasions, I think he's in the top 2 or 3 players that's played for the club, and his record speaks for that.
And how more impressive is that as well? A player coming from overseas, I'm sure it's slightly awkward saying it in front of him. He's in the room as well. Coming from overseas and playing this many games in a foreign country.
Yeah, look, I think he settled in well, and took up our culture and the way that we do things, and has enjoyed his lifestyle here, and his whole family are now proud South Australians, same as Issa. And I expect that he is intending on staying here, for the rest of his life. So he's made a great family home for his family, and one thing we can do as a club is show our appreciation, for everything that he's done for us.
You spoke briefly about his leadership and his work ethic. Do you see him as someone that could go into the coaching world?
Most definitely. He's at training and games. He is a coach on the field for us. I suppose at times a little bit this year we could have maybe done a little with him on the pitch a little bit more than what he has been on for that leadership qualities. So look, that's entirely up to what he wants to do with his career after football.